Hello and welcome to the podcast with me, Chris Stafford. Well, this week I've got a guest joining me from Europe. And you know, if you listen to the show regularly, we go right across the board with guests from all areas of the arts and film and television. And we've had a few cinematographers on the show. So this is not a first, but it's the first time we've had Bebe Dierken join us. So, Bebe, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Such a pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you for taking the time to do it, because you're in pre-production for a new job.
Yes.
So that gives you a bit of downtime.
Yes. Well, it's 6 episodes and, time is not plenty. So I'm busy, going through the scripts because, you have to read them many times because I'm doing all 6 episodes and we do this all in one go. So you need to be prepared. So I'm reading a lot at the moment, going over and over.
That's the fun part, though, isn't it? The research.
Yes. Yeah, it is. I love prep.
Yeah, it really is fun.
Yeah.
2 or 3 seasons ago on the show, we had Alicia Robbins. Now, I don't know if you know Alicia, but she was on a show that you did too, Bridgerton.
Yes, lovely.
So you share that in common.
Yeah, I think she came, I think she did season 3 as far as I know.
I believe so. That's right.
Yeah, I think so. And we actually been on one of the BSc evenings. We've been together on a table, and that was really lovely because we both had a proper giggle about, how we both like to get darker and darker and darker with the LED lights. We put them on like 4% or something like this. We had a good laugh. It was lovely.
It's a great community, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. It's especially here in the UK, we have, even though she's not from the UK, but we have the Illuminatrix, which is a female cinematographers like a group, and it's very, very supportive. They're absolutely lovely. It's a great community. And I've never had this before in my career. So I only really got this when I went to the UK.
We've had a few guests on the show who speak about the Illuminatrix and how supportive it is, as you said.
Yeah. It's
a super supportive group, which women need in the industry. I mean, there can never be too many of these groups because women need the support in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I actually personally think that not that much has changed. I think you see more women in general, but I don't think I see them. I mean, I'm talking from the camera point of view, and there are a few more which you see now as a cinematographer in leading positions, but there are also so many more jobs. The whole streamers came at one point, and that's a huge, huge market. So if you compare this to when I started, it's kind of still the same percentage. It hasn't changed that much. And if I look on the film set itself, I see a lot of young girls working in the camera department, working for a male focus puller, for a male operator. It's still a little bit in the serving. You serve somebody in the serving position. So it's still difficult, I think, to be at the head, to get there. Don't think it's that easy.
Do you feel then that especially younger women coming into the industry would feel subservient to the men still?
I don't fully know what that word means. Sorry.
So it means, I think, is you when you just use the words, serving the men, it's almost as if we're secondary to the men, that the men will always be the leaders.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they probably would say no. It's a little bit when I started. When I started, I would have never thought, it would be that way. I just thought I start in camera. I love camera. I start. And then, reality drips in bit by bit over the years, and you realize it is a difference if you talk technically or if somebody else talks technically, it's a different, it's not only in camera. I'm sure it's also if you're a plumber, if the male plumber comes and says, yeah, no problem, I do your bathroom, or the lady is there with a spanner, probably will have more raising eyebrows than the male counterpart. So I think it's a little bit the same in camera, because there's also a lot of technical things implied, or things you can learn. So, or you have to learn. So, yes. Do
you find, Bebe, now that you are able to go from one job to the next?
Yes, I'm in the industry for a long time. I'm there now, I think probably 30 years. So, and I've been a focus puller for a very long time, for 20 years. And then now for 10 years, I'm a DP. And obviously in between was, quite a bit of operating, but I never just made a break saying, that's it, I only operate. So kind of went from focus pulling to DPing, and the 20 years of focus pulling is kind of my film school, because I've worked with so many different DPs, in each of them, and so many different jobs, very small ones, very big ones. So I've learned on all of these jobs, I would say, my trade. And I think I'm pretty lucky. I have been pretty lucky. So I do work. I do work a lot, and there are a lot of colleagues you talk to, especially now where they're getting older, which, you fall through the net. Nobody wants to work with an old hag. They don't want that. They want to, in general, I'm just saying that, but I really think they want something a little bit more, younger, juicy. You can bend them more. You can influence them better. They're not as confident as you are after 30 years. So I've been lucky, but not everybody is. So at the moment, fingers crossed, it's all okay.
What do you find is the most fulfilling part of your life now?
Probably because I've been, most of my life, I've been so focused on work and camera. I've been mad about camera. And I only very late actually got married, only a few years ago. So this is a total different... it's still a new world for me, and I really enjoy that, I have to say. I've found a really lovely man, and so this is probably what I enjoy most, being together.
He's in the business with you?
Yeah, he's a gaffer. And he's a gaffer. I met him on a film in South Africa, and we love to work together as well. I think we're such a good... I think if I don't tell people, they don't know he's my husband. And I'm trying to avoid this because that comes with other problems. They're like, oh yeah, she's bringing her husband. So I normally don't say that, but we work well together, and I just enjoy. But we're still both like film buffs. We talk about camera and lighting all the time, and even in the evening, everybody else probably thinks this is so boring. But I love it. We love it.
Yeah, you're talking gear.
Yeah, oh yeah, we do. In the evening, it's like, oh, have you seen this? Oh, you know what? We could do this tomorrow. Wouldn't that be amazing? You're like, oh my God, yes. So it doesn't really stop. We really love that.
In terms of your ambitions then, and now your achievements, when you look back on your career, Bebe, how do they compare?
That's a good question, and probably not a question I really have asked myself. I think I've been, as I said before, I think I've been very, very lucky. I've had an amazing focus pulling career. Not to forget, I've dedicated my life to camera. I've put a lot of work in, and there were a lot of obstacles, but I've managed to go onto all these big jobs I dreamt of, and that gave me kind of peace. So now I don't feel like I need to prove to everybody that I'm capable of doing this. So I think I achieved a lot, and it hasn't stopped. It's still, every new job is is new, and I want to put everything in I can. So the excitement hasn't stopped. Let's put it that way. I'm still on the same path.
Which were the dream jobs then?
Oh, this was like one. There are a few of them which are really in my memories. Blood Diamond is one of them. It was an amazing job. Amazing. The crew was fantastic. Sometimes everything comes together, and that was a film where everything came together. Absolutely. It's special still to this day. Actually, just last week, I just hung out with some of the Blood Diamond family. And it's every time we see each other, we don't see each other very often, but when we see each other, it's like you start exactly where we left off. And that's, 20 years ago. So it's, or even, around that. So that was a great film. United 93 was a very impactful film for me. I did with Paul Greengrass as a focus puller. These were focus pulling jobs. From when we talk about the past, V for Vendetta, all of them, but Blood Diamond and United 93 are probably very, very strong. I have very strong memories of.
Well, you are now, of course, based in the UK, but you are from northern Germany originally, so that's where your education was. But you come from a background of accountants. Both your parents are accountants. So did you or your sister Nicole, did you start this path towards the film and industry world?
Yeah, well, I think I started it, clearly. After my A&O levels, I tried to become a painter. And so I started going to university for studying art and becoming a painter. And I had to realize after a year that I'm not good enough. I just thought, oh God, and also we had to paint, like if you have like a wooden table and you have like colorful pumpkins on it. And I died of boredom. It was just too much for me. And so I left. But I started photography at the same time, or just got really interested and been in the darkroom. I think a lot of people start in the darkroom and the magic of seeing, the image appearing in front of you. And so I did the same and studied then photography, became a photographer, started as a photo assistant. And I think I showed you my parents are both, come from as you said, from a totally different background. So nobody ever had any inkling for that. But I really think my father had a special talent. I told you, because I think he is a pioneer of Jürgen Teller, because it's all the off-framing, and because my father always clicked, when he was taking the picture on all the pictures we have of myself and my sister, my head is missing. There's always just a half a face. And so I started until my father died. He's unfortunately not here anymore. I sent him always pictures with half of my face or the head chopped off. We kept it as a family tradition, so he would recognize me. So it was, it was always a fun thing. And I think, looking back, I always think my father had unknowingly a great sense for framing. He would put his feet like big in the foreground. He would lie back, big feet, and then us in the background, that little. So I think if you look through the family album, it's hilarious.
That is so funny.
Yeah, so I think he didn't know how talented he was. So I inherited his talent, I think. And I became then a photo assistant with Friedbert Brüggemann in Hamburg. And there was a camera lady. He was going to do his first film. He wanted to film as well for a little commercial or something. And he asked a friend. And there was one camera lady in Hamburg, one. And she helped him. She came over and she helped him. And she saw me working as a photo assistant. She said, I really like what you do. You should go to a film set. So this is and she invited me. So I went to a commercial, didn't know anybody, saw this massive camera and thought, oh my God, it's like lightning struck. I'm like, oh my God, this is so amazing. And then I started she made sure that I start in the camera rental. That camera rental never had a woman there before. So I was the first one in Hamburg going in there, and they really didn't want me. And so that changed over the years. But at the beginning, when I started, they had no space for me. So I was only there to get their food and clean after them. They didn't allow me to touch any cameras. So my way is a long way. It's at one point, you just had to be brave enough to say, you know what, after 3 weeks I've done this, I would like to learn about camera. And then I learned from the focus pullers, which came in and checked the gear. They kind of took me under the wing, a few of them. And then I started as a second, and then pretty quickly as a focus puller, because at that time you had to do everything by yourself. You had to load them, you have to pick it up, you load it, So I started quickly with focus pulling, because otherwise you wouldn't have been able to survive. Because our film industry, obviously, after the war, even though it's so much longer after the war, shrunk. Was quite little. And Hamburg was just known for commercials. And you just did this by yourself. There was not really a second. And this is how I started. Co-production at one point. There was an English DP. He saw me and took me over to the UK. And because his focus puller left on that job, he just said, I start operating now. Sorry, I'm going. And he said, whom do I take now? And he said, take her. She's good. And this is how I ended up in the UK. It was more an accident than it was planned. And then I went into all this, because I went to the UK, that lifted me into the international film world. So this is when I then started V for Vendetta and all these bigger jobs. And and then became a DP eventually at one point.
It was a very smooth journey then. You didn't have to turn left or right and go waitressing or, doing anything other than what you wanted to do. It was pretty much a straight line in your career.
Yes, except of when I went from focus pulling really to DPing, that took me 1.5 years. That was and I didn't understand it at the time. I just thought, how is this possible? I've done all these jobs. I've worked for all of them for so long, but it took me a while to get my foot into becoming a DP. That jump was hard. That jump from DPing, from focus pulling to DPing, that was really tough. I nearly stopped. I nearly went into doing something else.
Did you always consider yourself ambitious then and single-minded until that point where you thought, okay, am I going to make it?
Yeah, I think I am ambitious. I really think so. It's probably also because I come from this little, town. I don't know. What are the reasons that you become so ambitious? What is the motor? I think the motor definitely was that, as lovely as my parents were, they were not really agreeing with what I was doing. They found this, that they paid so much for my education. I went to private convent school and all this kind of stuff. And I just went, I don't want any of this. And so for them, that was hard. And it's definitely been a motor throughout my career to show them I can do this. I can live off that. Because they always thought I would go to the post office or to the bank, because I'm from such a tiny little village. Nobody does what I do there.
Right. So you didn't have any mentors growing up. There wasn't anyone in the family, there were no other artists in the family.
No.
It was just you.
Yeah, just mullering through step by step. But this is the nice thing. I went everything I've done is baby steps. It's baby step, baby step, baby step. It's never been that arrive on the scene and they're like, oh my God, take this, this job. So I've made and I'm very comfortable with that. I've progressed in my speed. And that was, I think, very, very comfortable for me.
What was childhood like for you then, Bebe? What were your influences as a child? Were you obviously interested in art to some extent, but sport, or what kind of things did you enjoy doing as a child?
Yeah, I mean, I did I think very normal, low-key upbringing of, what you do as a lot of girls do is writing, drawing, all this kind of stuff. So I did writing for a very long time. That was what you could do on the countryside. There's not much you can do. Play in the mud, with some sticks in the forest. And it was actually, I had a neighbor, a friend, and I hung out with him a lot. And he was a wild boy. And he would put me into, so I would always play with him because there was nobody else around. So we always played together. And he made me doing the most horrendous things, like what you do as kids. If you're brave enough, he would always test me if I'm brave enough. On a truck, where the truck wheels, the inside of a truck wheel, he would put me inside and push me off a hill, so I would go like a washing machine in it forever. Or he would climb onto the street lights and I would do the same. Obviously, then somebody had to get us off again. So he was always like a daredevil, and I followed him blindly into everything he did. So that's probably my biggest influence was this wild boy when I was younger. And then I went to Catholic school with nuns for a very long time. And that definitely had a huge impact because after I did my A and O levels, I left the church straight away. And I also, as a young girl, you just have to realize, I just had to realize, just because they're the brides of Jesus, they're not lovely. There were a couple of really nasty ones. Ooh. So I was quite glad when I escaped. I had enough of it. Saying that, I'm still feel very comfortable in churches. I love churches. I really love them. I love the space. I like wherever I go, I walk to a church. So it must have somehow impacted me. It feels a little bit like home because I've been in it half of my youth.
Would you say you're religious? Do you follow organized religion now?
No, I don't.
Spiritual?
No, I don't think so. I think I believe, I don't know. I would say I like, what some of the, I've forgotten now the name of this Greek philosopher. I don't know if it was Empedocles or something. I can't remember. But I like the idea of that we all fall back into, I like the logical approach to it. So I believe we all become, basic parts. It's a bit like chemistry. We all become these elements again, and then we form new alliances. And I even think sometimes, total different topic, but if you click with people, I think we have the same, we share electrons. So we become, if you have like a periodic table, at the end you have all the great stuff, like silver and gold, all the great metals. And I think we share for sometimes electrons. And then we are, so we become better because we are two together. Side note. But I believe in the chemistry side of things.
You mentioned the path of your journey there, Bebe. What would you say were your turning points, those milestones?
I don't know. It's not that a milestone. I've had there's especially one film that had a massive impact on me. It's not maybe, I don't know, it was a milestone, not in the sense you're asking me of, but I can't think of anything else at the moment. But that was so special to me because there were people on set who died and through a car accident, and the whole, it's something that follows me through my whole, since that happened, I chew on that. I've never forgotten what happened there, and it had a big impact on me, and also on decisions I make, on a film set. And it's actually been it's been a job in Kazakhstan where was a co-production. I was also focus pulling there, so it's a while back. And we had like a crazy driver, so the whole camera department was always shuffled in one of these little minivans. And he was crazy. He drove so fast. And I went to the production office, I don't know how many times. I said, I don't want to drive with this guy anymore. I don't want us to be in this bus. And they just didn't do anything about it. And just one morning I just refused, and that got me into a lot of trouble, because I just refused going in there. And so they managed to get us another bus, and a little really shitty old one, really slow, and I loved it. Finally, we're not racing to set. And the sound department got the former driver we had. And I've warned them. I said, be careful, this guy is crazy. And 2 days later, I get a call from the grip, from the key grip. And he says, Bebe, are you on your way? And your crew? And I, yeah. So this guy had a massive accident, and we pulled, the grip and I, and the rest of the camera crew, we pulled our colleagues out of a burning car in the middle of nowhere. And the guy from the so I don't know, I don't want to tell this story and then it's such a downer, it's really not, it's not a good story. It's just that that a few people died, and you could hear they got the mother of one of the boom operators in. He was a Russian boom operator who was there as well. They got the wife and the mom, and I could hear them in the hotel the whole night crying. It was just so horrid. And the DP on that job I worked for, he was also, I've never told that story. He was such a horrible man. He He yelled at me when he saw me pulling people out of the car. And when I came 20 minutes late to set, we don't have a sound crew anymore. He yelled at me and being absolutely horrible. I started collecting money for the family, and he kicked the 1,000-foot can with the money off his dolly. It's just insane. It's, by the way, somebody who is, who has been nominated and, on big events. And I always thought, the thing is, you meet so many great people. I've also met amazing male DPs really helping me and being absolutely wonderful. But you also meet some absolutely terrible ones. And the injustice of what that happened there, I still chew on, the behavior and everything. But that also had a massive impact on me, because how do you go back? I've never seen somebody dying before, and I was holding their hand. It's just such a horrendous memory. So I think that pivoted me to, taking even more care about my crew, being very outspoken about, don't go there, don't do this. Is this question things, because how we all are always afraid of doing that, because it has a repercussion, and it had a repercussion for me before this horrible accident happened. So, and now actually, but the good thing is, I've only told this story to somebody else, and that's Andrea Milsom, the Milsom Foundation. I don't know if you know that. She was married to Mark Milsom, and he also died on a film set. So she founded a foundation, and every year she does T-shirts, which are done by an artist, and every money that they make through these T-shirts goes into the foundation for more safety on set, for courses, for all of this. And this year I do the T-shirt, which I think is so wonderful. And it's very colorful. So I hope a lot of people buy it and do something good with it. So more safety on set. That's what it's really, really, really important. Nobody should see that. This is horrible.
What would you say were your biggest lessons from that then, Bebe, and how did you, recovery is a long word, right? It's not something that you can pass through. You have to live it. But as an artist and someone who's going to go to work the next day to be creative, how did you process that in the things that you took from that incident over time and apply them on set?
I think empathy for everybody's for everybody's life, absolutely everybody. And I mean, I'm on top of that 40 years vegan, so every living being in my world, I really try to be as empathetic as possible. Nothing is more important, absolutely nothing. Everybody of us is just here once in my world, with what we said before. So I'm, empathy. Because obviously that comes with scars. We all have scars. All of us have their story, whatever that is. You just don't see it on people because you don't talk about these things most of the time. You just put them aside, especially on a film set. There's so much time pressure and you don't talk necessarily privately, maybe over years if you meet people. But empathy, I think. Really strong empathy for everybody, and set, and also the story and the actors and, what everybody is going through on a set like this. But it's also a power, it's a power you grow on these things, I think. Makes you stronger, yeah. Definitely. Sorry, it's just all got so sad. I'm normally really bubbly, like a...
No, it's a really important part of your story.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is. It changed a lot for me. That is when I came back from that. I think I came back from that film. I've lost. I'm always a bit on the chubby side. I think I lost 15 or 16 kilos in this one job. That was hell. It was just so, and my sister was actually my second on that job. We both really had a big impact. And one of the Steadicam operator was in the car. He's it could have been you must think it could have been us if I wouldn't have said something. We could have been the ones on the street, and I'm so happy I'm so happy that I was brave enough to say something. Not for the sound department, of course, but I was happy that I didn't raise my voice, but I just said, we're not going into this car anymore. It's not safe. And I don't want to be the one, the parents will ring and said, why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you do anything? So that's why I did it, luckily. Yeah.
Did you have support, Bebe, at the time and afterwards to process what happened to you? Because you're going back into that environment every day.
Yeah, no. I mean, I became really good friends with the grip. And to this day, when we see each other, he's actually from Berlin. He was a German grip. When we see each other, we are, because we pulled these people out of the car, we're bound for life. We're connected for life. It was such a strong story. And I mean, even the whole story and the whole entirety, if I start talking about it, it's just crazy the things that happened. And and the unfairness of being born in a country is not your own doing. There is no SOS International coming. There is no, a little van turned up at one point with two little rods and a little bit of fabric. This is how they carry them into the back of the car. That's the ambulance. And little silver tins, like you see sometimes in India where they have the food in, just a little bit bigger, and there were the instruments in there. That's what it was. And I just, so everything you maybe have taken for granted before, so many things you've taken for granted before, that you have the health insurance, that you have somebody immediately, a helicopter, something, helping you. And that is something that didn't exist there. So it was on so many levels. It had a massive impact on me. The behavior of this DOP, the non-empathy for what really happened there. Then the amazing funeral, so different to what we've ever experienced, how they deal with grief in a total different way. And how strong these women were when we talk about women on this funeral. And it's so nice. They go from, they carry this body this one special one, from one place to another, where he worked, where he's born, where his friends were. So, and everywhere they take the coffin off, and everybody who is from that part of his life, they will be waiting at that place and say bye-bye. So it's like he went on a last journey. So one journey was the film studio. So there were all the film people there who've been there in his life. And I thought that was so beautiful. So in the whole sadness as well, it was also beautiful. And we supported the families for a long time. The key grip and I, we tried from because he was the only one making the money at that time. So I know it's so sad, but this had the biggest impact on me for sure. And no, there was nobody. At that time, there was nobody to turn to these days, and that's a good thing that these days you can go to somebody and talk to somebody, but that wasn't possible at that time. It just didn't exist.
Were you able to talk to Nicole, your sister? Were you close?
Yeah, of course. She's been my second for 7 years, so we've been I like the little family unions. Yeah, she's wonderful, really feisty, wild. I've always been a bit more accommodating, and she's been like very outspoken. She wouldn't take, what I would maybe swallow and think, okay, let it be, No, she would go for it. So she was like a little secret weapon when I had her with me. She was wonderful, very smart, very quick, very fast, very, very sharp. Yeah.
So you're very different.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. Our voices are very similar. So even when we ring Mom, she doesn't know who's just talking. But after a few seconds, of course, she knows. But I think we're different. Yeah. Yeah. She's very. I'm the older one. She's the younger one. She's definitely the wilder one.
What is your mother's reaction now to your success, Bebe? Because she obviously had doubts when you were younger.
Yeah, no, she's very proud. She doesn't really, all the international stuff I do, she doesn't really know. She knows the local stuff. So still what I've done when I started, with the local German heroes, that's still like, oh my God, and all international people, she just doesn't know, and she couldn't care less about it. So she knows I'm working, and she loves that I occasionally send pictures with me and the camera and stuff like that. But she's definitely proud. There's no doubt about it.
Do you keep the camera and your head in the frame when you send her pictures?
For Mom, yes. For Dad, I stopped doing it for when Dad wasn't there anymore. But it was always fun. I did it also with the crew. So he could always see the whole crew, but my face, was staged that it's been out of frame. Yeah, wonderful pictures, of course.
Hi, I'm Gretchen Morvan, cinematographer, camera operator, and lady camera guy on Instagram. I have a new newsletter which expands on my website for people working in camera and cinematography. Sign up in the highlights on my Instagram or at my website, ladycameraguy.com, where you will also find job opportunities, hiring resources, career advice, gear recommendations, mentorships, internships, training opportunities, job resources, recommended reading, watching, and podcasts. There's also a list of international organizations dedicated to cinematography around the world. Again, the website is ladycameraguy.com and on Instagram at ladycameraguy.
What has being an artist in this industry taught you about yourself?
I don't know, just to... It's always difficult, I think, even to say that you are an artist, even though you do this every day. You always draw something from inside, always. And It's definitely, because you do that, I think you reflect a lot. So maybe reflection, I think that's what I probably got out of it the most. Question yourself, challenge yourself.
Your experiences then have amplified the empathy in you as well. And there's that, when you go to set now, you're a different person to what you were before that incident.
Yes. Definitely. Definitely. I mean, it's yes. I can clearly say yes, because it had such an impact on me on that time, and it's something I will never forget. It will stay with me forever. There is not a week I don't think about this. And it's not a nightmare, but I think about it and think, oh my God. It's there. It's always there in the back of my head. It's and I'm glad that it is, because it helps me on set. I've been actually 2 years ago. I've been on a set in Greece, and I just we're on a location recce, and I see everybody walking. We're looking for Baghdad in Greece, in Athens, so in Piraeus. There are parts which are really run down, and they've used them before for a show called Tehran, so we're going there now. And I just see everybody walking up a balcony. It's all abandoned houses, and under the balcony is just like a rod with a little piece of wood holding the whole thing up. It's about to collapse, and I see like 4 or 5 people of the crew standing up there, and I'm like, I mean, guys, look, I think it sharpened my it sharpened my view on, also because I have been crew for a very long time. I don't want to put my crew on a balcony with equipment which is heavy. That needs to be safe if they go up there. It's that. So, and I think it's really born in, because when I started in the industry, safety, yes, was more like common sense safety. It's really not that you necessarily had a training. You kind of looked out to yourself or said, that's not a good idea, don't do this. But that's about it. So my learning curve, I would say, before all these courses became available, is definitely that incident.
What do you see first through the lens? Is it light or color?
It's probably light. I probably see light first now. Light, yeah.
At what point do the emotions come into the frame?
It's because I read the script so many times, and I read it really a lot of times. And the first times, so I start already in prep. It gives me a guidance, and I write like a director to every scene what I think this scene stands for. I do this to help me on the day, so I know quickly where to go, and then you go with an instinct. And all your experiences you have made go into that instinct, of course. So I come prepared, and then there might be something on set. It's just a word, the way they move, something that influences you, and you talk to the director, and then you go maybe a total different path as what you've done before, what you were planning. You had planned the big track with God knows what, and then you come there and it's this, you see it, and you're like, I think it's nice just to be still behind them, or you just tell everything from a POV. And then cut to a close-up. So it comes definitely with the direction of the actors as well, the set, what the light does to the set. You sometimes see light so beautifully falling into a corner, and actors are standing there, and you're just. You get inspired by what's happening on the day. So I think that's my guidance. I think I do this it's a gut feeling in the end.
What upsets you on set?
Mobile phones. They really upset me. They upset me because it's drawn so much attention away from what we're doing. that upsets me. I don't like if they, the moment the AD calls cut, that they just get the phone out and look on the phone until you tell them, okay, guys, ladies, guys, let's move, let's go somewhere there. That I don't like. I wish there would be no phones on set.
How do you cope with that frustration and other frustrations? How do you process those negative emotions?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I used to get angry when I was definitely when I started in this industry, because I've learned from all these angry men. This is how you spoke totally differently than today. Today I think it's in my eyes, of course, from where I come from, is such a luxury that you can have a sensibility that was just not possible before. You had to be like a bulldozer to survive in that industry. And so saying that, I don't think I get... I think it's also the benefit of age. It definitely makes you milder. It's all not that important anymore. If somebody just says something to you where you just think, yeah, that was really rude, you're like, yeah, whatever. It doesn't get you anymore. When you're young, when I was younger, I took this really personal because I just, how can they say this? This is, you fight for it. It's not right. Until you realize you probably not win the fight. And also, so it's, so I don't think I get really upset anymore on set. Really, it's only if something is really, really unfair. If sometimes people get fired for no reason because it's just benefiting a political reason. That is difficult to chew. I'm not getting angry, but I'm just so frustrated then because I don't know what to do. If you go there, it doesn't make a big difference. Yeah, that's a frustration. I think there's a benefit that we can go and say something now, but I think us as HODs, because you can report, but you can normally, you either have somebody to report to or you can go to the producers. But the producers can also be sometimes the ones who put a lot of pressure on us as HODs. And of course, because budgets are getting smaller, time is getting less, I understand their frustration as well. But I feel that sometimes we don't have anybody to go to anymore. You can't, it's difficult. Because they are in power. You go to the ones you really work with.
Who were your biggest influences, your mentors?
I would say Benoit Delhomme is definitely one. Robert Richardson is definitely one. I know he's very controversial. But I can say he's always been good to me, even though I have to say I saw him also be not too good sometimes to people, but he is, I really liked him, and I liked his honesty, his directness, but I'm German, not to forget that's something we kind of thrive on. We don't mind if somebody is really blunt. And so he was definitely Adrian Biddle, Harvey Harrison. It's mainly men. Bella Halben. This is the lady that the DOP, the cinematographer, she's still working as well in Germany, who helped me getting my foot into the camera rental. Amazing that she's done that. Actually, all these few women, the women I started with at the beginning of my career, we are still all very, very close. Very close, because we went through we have very similar stories. Birgit Gudjonsdottir, Britta Mangold, Dixie Schmiedle, Judith Kaufmann. We are all, like the ones, and this is all the ones from Germany. I think we've been 10 at that time for many, many years. So we are still, Yeah, these are all my influences. I looked up to them, and to Nancy Schreiber, and of course to which I only met last year for the first time. It was really emotional for me because I only saw her when I was younger in the American Cinematographer, and I couldn't believe how that was possible. That you as a woman could get there, and Amy Vincent. They were just, because the only women, when I started in the American Cinematographer right at the beginning, was always one blonde lady with a glide cam. She was always standing there like this. I don't know if you remember that. And it always upset me. It really made me so angry. Until, Nancy Schreiber, and when they all suddenly, these two women arrived, I was amazed. That was like, wow.
Who would you like to work with now?
I would love to work with Tom Ford, Baz Luhrmann, these kind of, because there is something so flamboyant about them. So it's a high aesthetic. And I really love that. I think that Tom Ford has an enormous elegance. Not saying that Baz Luhrmann doesn't have that, but he is just like, I love, the color he allows you to use. He is embracing that it's so stage, it's so theatrical. That's what I love about it. It's heightened.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, it's another level, isn't it?
Oh, I love it. And Tom Ford, when these, in the art gallery at the beginning, where these big naked ladies are dancing with this amazing music. I don't know if you've ever seen Nocturnal Animals. Amazing. I first thought, what is that? And then I thought, oh my God, this is so cool. I just, wow. Yeah.
Making a mental note to watch that now, yeah.
Yes, you will be like, this is possible that you can film this? But then I love it. I also like to, and that's actually what brings me back to the next job I'm doing. It's with older actors. How wonderful. How wonderful is that? How wonderful that it's not everybody is slim and young and nice with hair and nice teeth, No, it's, they're chubby and you have, the hair is a little bit off and wonderful. And the wittiness and the humor that comes with age. And I'm really looking forward to that. So I love that, I can embrace something totally different, because very often, you are, actors are around 40, maybe there's an occasionally 50 in between. But that you really have older cast is only recently that you see this again a little bit more often. And I think 4 of them are women on the next one, and one is an older gentleman. So I'm really looking forward to that. Also, what these actors can bring to, with such a volume of experience, what they bring to the table. I'm sure it will be so much fun. I'm really looking forward.
What do you look forward to doing when you're not on set, when you're home? What do you do when you're not working?
That's probably a shock.
Really? Big knitter?
I'm a mega knitter. I'm a big knitter. Yeah, I do constantly something. I have to do something with my hands. I love it. So I'm either knitting for everybody. I've knit yellow. I have a thing with neon yellow. I love neon yellow forever. So I've knitted jumpers with neon yellow cameras on it, and or I put neon yellow cameras on the back of my jackets. And I made here. This is another one, a little shirt with all. There's the yellow camera, and it's like inclusive. It's like for trans and for deaf people and for disabled. We're all in the camera. This is skin colors. This is straight people and me. Yellow here.
I love it.
So I love always doing this kind. So I draw in the evening, even though I'm not not very good in drawing, but I enjoy it. I enjoy drawing. So I still do that. Knitting, drawing. I have to do something with my hand. Gardening. Everything with a hand is what I like. And I like to drift off because that allows me to drift off. Some people do, read a lot, which is also, it comes in phases, I have to say, with me. Sometimes, I like diving into something, but because I look at so many different scripts. I read so many scripts. I always feel the need more to do something more with my hands. So this is when I come home, and I've done all my work, which is also plenty in the evening. Then I go and knit. La, 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 and then, with a head in the clouds and go.
Complete relaxation.
Yeah.
Do you like cooking?
Yes, but my husband is actually better on it. I'm vegan, and he really took this on as a challenge. He's such a good cook, so he very often does that when I'm still prepping for the next day, because most of the time my prepping is more intensive than his. Then he starts cooking, which is great. Yeah, but I love it. I love it as well. But he's better. It's a bit like painting.
This brings me to, the fun part of the show where you get to invite six guests, living or dead, to a dinner party.
Yeah.
Who's coming?
Yeah, that is a tricky question, and I probably would love it to be more like a picnic, because in England I love the picnics. I love the picnics that you sit on somewhere outside with the Pims, which is so healthy because there's so much fruit in it, which cracks me up. You have to live in England to really embrace this. I love it, of course, and. I probably would go with, a director I would love to work with, I think, and that would be probably Tom Ford.
Okay.
I probably would go with a producer who actually understands cinematography and the needs and not only looks at the budget. So that for me would be probably Kevin Delanoy. He was also the producer on Blood Diamond, and I absolutely adore him. He's a fantastic guy, fantastic producer. Is one of these wonderful ones. He just, has worked his way up as well. So he knows why you do things. Mm-hmm. I would like to have a controversial woman, and I couldn't think about anybody more controversial than Madonna. Because she is, I know it's all like these big names, but they have, I'm a child of the 90s, not to forget. So she definitely left, at that time, and what she did was like insane, So, and I think she's very controversial. She's done a lot of things where people would shake their head and think, is she out of her bloody mind? But I think she has some spice. There's something she has to say, and I kind of like that. She always stood up for herself. Then I probably would take a friend, a collaborator, and that would be, of course, my gaffer, because he's my strongest collaborator. And so this is my husband, John Kevin Gibb. And I would love him to be there. And who's missing? How many do I have?
I think you have 5.
Oh, yeah, and maybe Neil deGrasse Tyson. I like him as well. He's an astrophysicist. I like everything he has to say. I follow him for years. All these talks mesmerize me, where life comes from, space. Space has always been something I found really, really interesting. But there we're back with, I've always been quite good with numbers. I've never been the one that's really that good with language, but I love numbers. I love, logic. I always found it very, very interesting. And then, of course, the question we all ask ourselves, where is life coming from and where is it going? So, and he is also a very flamboyant astrophysicist, I think. He's very, very outspoken, very funny. Very smart. Neil deGrasse Tyson, and myself. That would be nice.
So this is a picnic. Are you going to Hampstead Heath, or are you going to stay at Hampton Court?
Yeah, I stay here where Henry VIII chopped all the heads off. Well, he didn't really chop them off there. He just carried them out to the Tower of London, at least 2 of them, I think. Yeah, they even do a gin here now called Six Wives.
Oh, do they?
Which I think is, I think it's hilarious. They just really, if he would have known, what a big marketing, the Six, the Broadway show, I actually like that. It's the six women are singing their life. It's like a pop show. Have you seen it? It's
hilarious.
It's so funny. Yeah, hilarious. Beheaded, survived. Yeah.
So what are you going to feed them? Are you going to provide the picnic, or are you going to cater it? You're going to have someone provide the food?
Well, I think my husband is very good in doing vegan. He would be the one, because he's there as the collaborator. We would throw a vegan picnic, that's for sure. Cruelty-free, no blood.
Right.
Yeah. Respect for life, respect for every life. So just because they don't, talk our language, it's the same system with the same organs. But that's probably also because I'm come from this little village where, mass killing of animals is normal. I think it feeds the whole of Germany where I'm from. So they have all these...
But in Vector...
Fechter, yeah, they have all these big... They probably won't like that if I say that, but they make their money, they're living with death. So in my eyes, because they have millions of chicken there and millions of pigs and, all of that, the egg industry, blah, blah, blah. So I think that's also a reason, because I've been so exposed to it when I was young, it's been the reason why probably I became vegan, 14 or something.
What are you most looking forward to beyond this next project, which is obviously exciting you? Anything beyond that?
Yeah, Greece. I want to move. We have this dream of moving to Greece because I love Athens. I love I think this is actually the Greeks have a joke about that. When the world got divided, when everybody got their piece of land, they're saying they have a joke about that, which I obviously can't say in Greek. But the Greeks were left over, and they asked God, and I said, "What's with us? What do we get?" And he said, "Okay, I'll give you paradise." And I really think it is paradise. Yeah. It's so wonderful in the evenings in town. You can go out and have this wonderful, you sit outside, it's not cold, and you can eat all these amazing vegetables. And at daytime in the morning, you flip-flop to the beach, hang around there, have a bit of a swim in a very nice blue Mediterranean Sea. And then you go home, have a little nap, and get ready for the evening again. I mean, how wonderful is that? So I want to go to paradise, to Greece.
Would you still be working, or are you going to retire by then? You'll still be working?
No. Yes, I think I will be. I hope. Ideally, it's like the dream. I just fall off the dolly at one point and that's it. That is the best thing that can happen. A lot of DPs I've worked for, they've been there, until a really, really high age, 82, 85, and I hope that is there for me as well if I get that old. That would be wonderful. Camera is definitely my life. I love it.
Your love language.
It's my language.
You worship at the god of cameras.
Yes. Yes, exactly. The neon yellow one.
And for those who are listening on the podcast, you have to hop over to our YouTube channel to see this beautiful T-shirt that Bebe is wearing.
Yes.
I think we all need to get one. Do you have any more of those that you can?
Yes, I'm actually starting, because I'm so bored that everything is always black on set and grey. So I actually just started doing like a little clothing line for camera crew, and I do also pink bomber jackets now with all the cameras on it on the back. I've done a jacket from inside, which is high vis, so you can turn it around when you're on the street. So it has a safety aspect in it as well. So you don't have these neon bibs You know, you always have these vests you always have to wear. So I thought, why not have a jacket you just turn around?
Are these all knitted? Are these knitted?
No, these are not. No, these are. I did them. It's art.
But I'm wondering if you're knitting this new attire.
Yes. It's somewhere in the cupboard. I have a few with a yellow camera on the back. Yeah. Yes. Sometimes I take it off again. I have a few of these yellow cameras and patch them on something else, which I like better at the moment. I don't know. It just became a fun thing to do. I just like a bit of color.
That's a whole brand you've got going there, Bebe.
Yes. We need a bit more fun and a little bit more color on set, that's for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, even though if this was maybe a bit of a heavy conversation, I wouldn't, foresee that. But thank you for all these really unusual questions you're asking. It's not, it's very, very liberating. Thank you very much.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you.
Sorry, I hope I didn't bore everybody to death.
Not in the slightest. Thank you so much for being so open and sharing your story. And please delay falling off the dolly, okay?
Yes, I try. I try. I will.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Remind everybody where they can find you on social media.
It's Bebe Dierken. It's just my name, Bebe Dierken. On Instagram, it's everywhere the same. LinkedIn, Facebook, it's always the same. It's Bebe Dierken. And it's a very colorful, drawn head. I think it's on the back. Yeah, it's on the back of my shirt. This is my company.
Oh, yes. Okay. Oh, yes, that's right.
Oh, no, that's
yes, I saw that when we came on. Yes,
husband?
Exactly. Perfect. All right. If you're on the podcast app, you have to go over to YouTube and see this beautiful T-shirt sweatshirt, I should say, that Bebe is wearing. Very colourful.
Yeah, thank you.
Bebe, thank you so much for taking time to come on the podcast. It's been so much fun getting to know you a little bit.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure. Thank you very much.
And thank you for listening. Don't forget to follow us on social media and share this with anyone you think might enjoy the show. You can also follow my blog on Substack, because if I've got something to say, I will pop over to Substack. So just look for Chris Stafford Official. You'll find me penning my thoughts over there. And, of course, if you're interested in other podcasts, such as all the extensive back catalogue that we have on Women Unscripted, which goes back to 1,700 episodes we've got across 20 shows now. So dive in and enjoy more stories from women in the arts and sport and culture, and all the wonderful guests that we've had here on the network. My thanks again to Bebe for joining me this week, and to you for listening. Goodbye for now.